Prime Minister Narendra Modi takes participative governance to a new level, invites ideas from citizens for a new institution to replace Planning Commission. Prime Minister Narendra Modi lays foundation stone of four-laning project of a national highway section in Katihal, Haryana, emphasizes on development of Haryana, promises to eradicate corruption from the country. Markets end in green for the sixth day in a row. Sensex ends at a fresh closing high of 26,421. Nifty closes at 78.98. Regional transport offices to be overhauled soon, says Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari. Government to also introduce Motor Vehicle Amendment Bill in the next session of the Parliament. And a use service of ex-servicemen. Defence Minister Arun Jaitley urges corporate sector to utilize the services of ex-servicemen for meeting their requirement for a highly trained and disciplined workforce. Well, hello and welcome to Business Wrap. I'm Sidhant Sibal and let's begin with our staple, that's the stock markets. Another day of record closing high for the markets. Sensex gained 30 points to end at 26,421, while NSE Nifty closed up 23 points to end at 78.98. That's just 2 points short of the crucial 7,900 levels. The Nifty, however, did manage to break that mark in the intraday trade. The BSE Mid Cap Index was up 1.1%. The BSE Small Cap Index was up 1.21%. Both these indices outperformed the Sensex. Stock gained for the sixth day in a row today. Realty stocks extended recent gains. Auto stocks rose with Tata Motors, Maruti Suzuki and Mahindra & Mahindra scaling record highs. Airline stocks rose as crude oil prices fell. Jet Airways and SpiceJet gained. Gainers on the chart were Mahindra & Mahindra, Tata Motors, BHEL, Bajaj Auto and Dr. Reddy's Lab, which were up by between 3 to 2%. Losers on the chart were HDFC, TCS, HDFC Bank, Hindalco and Hindustan Unilever, which are down by about 3 to 1%. The market breadth indicating the overall health of the market was positive. Well, on to global market action, starting with Asian stocks. Asian stocks rose today after a rally in US stocks on Monday, triggered by upbeat US housing data and hopes of progress in the Ukraine crisis. Key benchmark indices in China, Hong Kong, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, Japan and Indonesia were up by between 0.2% to 1.12%. On to European market action. European stocks rose today, extending recent gains of previous trading sessions as talks between Ukraine and Russia eased concerns about the conflict between the two countries. Key benchmark indices in UK, France and Germany were up by between 0.44% to 0.91%. Well, let's check out the Rupee closing figures. Well, Rupee rose 9 paise to end at over 2-week high of 60.67 against the US dollar. So that's a 2-week high for the Rupee. Continuing with our stories, well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has promised people to involve them in governance and has taken a big step in that direction. 3 days after announcing scrapping of the Planning Commission to pave way for a new institution, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has invited ideas from people for a new body. A special open forum has been created on the website www.mygovernment.nic.in for suggestions in this regard. The Prime Minister, in his Independence Day speech last week, had said that Planning Commission is a very old system. He said that Commission will be replaced by a new institution with a new structure and direction to lead the country. Welcoming new ideas, the Prime Minister also tweeted that new institutions should cater to the aspirations of 21st century India and strengthen participation of the states. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today laid the foundation stone in Katihal, Haryana for widening of a road project in Haryana that entails 4,000 crore rupees investment. The Prime Minister emphasized on development of Haryana.
हिंदुस्तान के गांवों को आधुनिक विज्ञान का लाभ मिले, दूर सुदूर गांव के स्कूलों में बच्चों को अच्छी शिक्षा मिले, टेक्नोलॉजी के माध्यम से लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस एजुकेशन का लाभ मिले, ब्रॉडबैंड कनेक्टिविटी की जाल बिछे, ऑप्टिकल फाइबर नेटवर्क बिछाए जाए। एक आधुनिक भारत के निर्माण के लिए, नई पीढ़ी की आवश्यकताओं की पूर्ति के लिए इन बातों पर बल देने की दिशा में हम प्रयासरत हैं।
He also promised to eradicate corruption from the country, saying corruption is more serious disease than cancer.
मैंने कहा था कि कुछ लोग ऐसी आदत हो गई है, कोई भी काम हो तो पूछते हैं मेरा क्या। और जब वो बात बनती नहीं है तो हाथ ऊपर कर देते हैं, कहता है ठीक है मुझे क्या। तो ये मेरा क्या और मुझे क्या, इसने देश को तबाह करके रखा हुआ है। यहां मौजूद कोई व्यक्ति ऐसा नहीं होगा जो भ्रष्टाचार को समर्थन देता हो। आप मुझे बताइए, भ्रष्टाचार से देश को मुक्त कराना चाहिए कि नहीं कराना चाहिए? इसके लिए कठोर कदम उठाने चाहिए कि नहीं उठाने चाहिए? अगर मैं वो कठोर कदम उठाऊं, आपके आशीर्वाद है, आपके आशीर्वाद की ताकत से इस देश में इस बीमारी को हम हटा सकते हैं, निकाल सकते हैं।
Well, moving on, Road and Transport and Highway Minister Nitin Gadkari has said that the government will introduce Motor Vehicle Amendment Bill in the next session of the Parliament, and once enacted, it will end malpractices in the regional transport offices across the country. Under the bill, the regional transport offices, which grant driving licenses and register vehicles, will be overhauled to bring an end to corrupt practices. He was speaking on the sidelines of a meeting of the Indian Roads Congress.
नया ट्रांसपोर्ट कानून जो व्हीकल के बारे में, इंजन के बारे में, पोल्यूशन के बारे में इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स के नॉर्म्स को स्वीकार करके उसकी तैयारी हम कर रहे हैं। इस पूरे एक्ट का काफी अध्ययन हुआ है, अलग अलग क्षेत्र पर काफी लोगों से हमने सलाह भी ली है। अमेरिका, ब्राजील, कनाडा, सिंगापुर, जापान और जर्मनी 6 राज्यों के कानून का अध्ययन किया है। यूके के लिए हमारे अधिकारी भी गए, वहां भी यूके का भी अध्ययन किया है और अध्ययन करके इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड का एक कानून अगले पार्लियामेंट के सेशन में हम लाएंगे। और मेरा विश्वास है कि इससे परिवहन डिपार्टमेंट में जो भ्रष्टाचार है वो पूरा समाप्त होगा, पूरी ट्रांसपेरेंसी आएगी।
Earlier addressing the Indian Road Congress meeting, the minister said that he had committed the Prime Minister that transport and shipping sectors would contribute at least 2% to the GDP of the country in next 2 years.
Transparency. We need full transparency. We need time-bound approach. We need quality construction. We want to save the time. And we are committed for the welfare of the people of this country. सब मिलकर हम एक टीम के अंग हैं। आपका एक एक का रोल इम्पोर्टेंट है, जो स्टेट में वो स्टेट में भी इम्पोर्टेंट है। और मुझे लगता है कि पूरी ट्रांसपेरेंसी के साथ भ्रष्टाचार को मुक्त करके देश में रोड टारगेट को एक्चुअली फास्ट ट्रैक डिसीजन मेकिंग प्रोसेस करनी चाहिए।
Well, Defence Minister Arun Jaitley today urged the corporate sector to utilize the services of ex-servicemen for meeting the requirement of a highly trained and disciplined workforce. The Defence Minister was addressing the Directorate General of Resettlement Conclave, where industry body CIA and the Army would work together to provide jobs to ex-servicemen. Every year, 60,000 armed force personnel retire, and 44% of them are in the age group of 40 to 50, while 12% people are within the age group of 30 to 35 years.
Now, to continue with our television, General Daljeet Singh, the Indian Armed Forces has played a key role in deputy the Chairman and Chief of Staff, where a large number of avenues ought to be made available to the ex-servicemen. They are a human resource which has the capacity to work and work effectively. And I'm sure if this human resource is involved in India's private sector, it's good for the resource, it's good for the private sector. And as I said, it's a continuation of that act of gratitude that the society has towards its services.
Well, on to news from the corporate sector. Well, the inflation is playing a dampening role in denting the corporate profitability. The first 2 quarters have shown mixed results as profitability was dampened by high inflation costs that eroded margins of companies. However, the individual tax collection has shown a surge even after high inflation. A report.
Results of first 2 quarters have shown mixed results. As far as the corporate sector is concerned, it seems that high inflation is eroding the profitability of the corporates. Profits have shrank as high inflation has made raw materials and inputs costlier, and therefore lower earnings resulted in less paying of taxes by the corporate sector. The rate of growth of personal income tax collections during 2013-14 was nearly double that of the corporate tax mop-up. Individuals have paid 20.51% more income tax in 2013-14 than in the previous financial year, whereas the rate of growth in the case of corporate income taxpayers at 10.76% lagged. Corporate tax collections in 2013-14 took a beating due to high inflation during most of the year. However, for individuals, tax is paid on salaries irrespective of the cost of living. High inflation hurts individuals by reducing their purchasing power, but tax is collected and paid on the total earnings and often even deducted at source before an individual receives the amount. Let's understand by an example of one restaurant and an individual. If onion prices are surging, these higher prices would compel restaurant owner to pay lower tax due to depressing profits. However, it would not be same for a salaried taxpayer's rising vegetable bills. Tax is collected and paid on the total earnings. However, analysts believe that with the declining inflation numbers, corporate tax might see a surge by the end of this fiscal. Business Bureau, DD News.
Well, let's check out other business news of the day. Well, starting with the Sultan of Brunei has dismissed a report by the Wall Street Journal online that he made a bid for New York's Plaza Hotel, Dream Hotel and London's Grosvenor House Hotel. The journal's website edition reported that an investment firm affiliated with Brunei had offered to pay $2 billion for 3 hotels which are currently owned by the Sahara Group. Global investment major Goldman Sachs has said that Indian oil retailers will suffer no losses on diesel after a hike in prices in September. That, according to investment bank, would mean diesel prices charged by retailers could be market priced by September. The government is gearing up to bring coal mining amendment bill in the winter session of the parliament to permit private players to enter commercial mining in the sector. The government will be consulting all the stakeholders before formulating the coal mines nationalization amendment bill. Pune-based Bajaj Auto and its Chakan plant union have finally reached a wage agreement under which the management has agreed to hike wages by up to 10,000 rupees a month. This follows months of negotiations and unrest affecting production. European car maker Volkswagen today announced setting up of a diesel engine assembly and testing facility at its Chakan plant in Pune at an investment of 240 crore rupees. Homegrown e-commerce major Snapdeal today launched a new initiative to help sellers on its platform to get easy access to working capital to help them expand their business further. Under the Capital Assist program, Snapdeal will help the small businesses to connect with funding partners to help in meeting working capital requirement. Ford India today said its sports utility vehicle SUV EcoSport has achieved 1 lakh sales figure milestone in domestic and export markets. The company had launched the model last year. Samsung is fast losing market in India. According to research firm IDC, Samsung had a 29% share of the Indian smartphone market in the second quarter of 2014. The company had a 35% share in the first quarter of 2014. On the other hand, Micromax has seen its market share grow from 15% in the first quarter of 2014 to 18% in the second quarter of 2014. The controversial proposal of HDFC Bank to hike foreign holding may be taken up in the FIPB meeting in its next meeting following clarification submitted by the bank. Late last year, HDFC Bank had approached FIPB for increasing the foreign holding in the bank to 67.55% from 49%. According to the Asian Development Bank or ADB, India risks losing almost 8.7% of GDP by AD 2100 due to climate change. Changes in the rainfall pattern are likely to benefit rice output in most northeastern states. However, southern states could see annual yields decline by 5% in 2030s. And finally, Japan is to restart export of rice growing in the Fukushima prefecture for the first time since foreign sales were halted due to fears of contamination by the nuclear disaster of 2011. It will send 300 kilograms of the grain to Singapore. So that was all in our business stories. Well, connecting with other stories, other sector, that's the MSME sector. Boosting entrepreneurship has been the main aim of the government, and in this regard, the government announced the launch of Venture Capital Fund of 10,000 crore rupees in the budget. The government is working on the final details of this fund, and we can see some announcement in this regard very soon. Here's an exclusive conversation. MSME sector forms a crucial component in the economy. It contributes almost 40% to the economy and 40% for the export. Also with me is Madhav Lal, who is the secretary in the MSME ministry. So welcome to Doordarshan News. So my first question is, of course, so MSME forms a crucial backbone of the economy, but still it is not at that same level where it's in Germany, where Germany it contributes almost a significant portion of the economy. Why not India?
So, I mean, first of all, you have to start with the definition of MSME. What constitutes a MSME in Germany is probably a very large industry over here. So, you have to see the context in which we are talking about. And then we are talking about an economy which is largely agrarian. So, where are these industries likely to come up? You know, what will be the nature of those industries? What is the composition of the MSME sector presently? Now, of course, when we are talking about growth, then we have to see that what is the trajectory, what is the roadmap in this, and what will be the role of the MSMEs in this. So we are talking about the issues and the challenges and possibilities which the MSMEs present for the growth and job creation.
So do you plan to change the definition of MSME? The summit was all about this. So do you plan to change?
This particular matter has been referred to in the speech, budget speech of the Honorable Finance Minister. And there he has mentioned that there will be a relook at the definition of the MSMEs, keeping in view the various factors. So that process is on, and I think deliberations by industry people, as in this summit, will help us in providing the basic necessary material for taking the proposal forward.
So funding has been a major problem in the MSME sector. During the budget, the first budget of this government, there was a talk about venture fund, 10,000 crore rupees. What are the nitty-gritties of the fund?
The framework for this fund of 10,000 crores is being prepared. As I mentioned, one source of fund would be the shortfalls in MSME funding, which will come through the Reserve Bank of India route. How this fund will leverage other funds and how exactly it will operate and address different segments of the MSME startups is something which is being worked out.
Exiting business. During the budget, there was a talk about bankruptcy framework through which the exiting business option becomes more available to the entrepreneurs in the MSME sector. What are the nitty-gritties about this whole framework?
Broadly speaking, there are two aspects of it. One is the legal framework, which has to do with the bankruptcy laws, and the other is what kind of approach and methodology is available to an entrepreneur who is wishing to exit vis-a-vis the other stakeholders, for instance the creditors, the other people who would be involved in a process of a person exiting business. So these are the two broad categories in which the process of exit has to be looked at from the point of view of simplifying the same.
Clearly, MSME form a crucial role in the economy of the country, and in Germany, it is the backbone of the country, and hopefully we will emulate the same thing in India, and the Indian MSME will be back as the forefront of the economy. With camera person Hemant, Sidhant Sibal, DD News, New Delhi. So reviving MSME has been the main aim of the government. Moving on, the WPI inflation is likely to average around 5.4% and the CPI to average between 7 to 7.5% during the financial year 14-15. Barclays research report has said this. According to the global financial services major, though the IMD has recently downgraded its monsoon forecast, but the uncertainties around the rainfall still remains.
According to the Barclays, the global financial services major, the ambiguities still remain in place about monsoon situation in India, despite the Indian Meteorological Department recently downgrading its monsoon forecast, predicting the deficit for fiscal year 2014-15 is 13%. The report says the WPI inflation is likely to average around 5.4% and CPI to average between 7.0 to 7.5% during the financial year 2014 and 15. The report also says that despite the monsoon situation improving considerably, the geopolitical tensions still pose a risk to inflation. WPI inflation declined to 5-month low of 5.19% in the month of July on account of decline in vegetable prices. According to the official figure, the wholesale price index based inflation was at 5.43% in the month of June and 5.84% in July last year. Meanwhile, retail inflation based on consumer price index rose marginally to 7.96% in the month of July from 7.46% in the month of June, mainly due to the high prices of food items like vegetables, fruits and milk. Barclays report further adds that based on monsoon rainfall, future trends in inflation play a role in setting up of RBI's actions. The Reserve Bank of India wants to maintain the number at 8% by January 2015, targeting down further to 6% by January 2016. Business Desk, DD News.
Well, on to some international stories. As Ukraine-Russia crisis escalates, there are bound to be some economic impact. Sanctions have been put on Russia by EU. But Russia may impose retaliatory sanctions against Western nations to include a ban on import of cars if the US and the EU impose additional sanctions on Moscow. Here's the report.
Western car makers including GM, Ford, Renault and Fiat have all invested heavily in Russia in recent years. In fact, Russia was expected to become Europe's biggest auto market by 2020. But the current sanctions battle over Ukraine could put the brakes on business. According to some reports, Kremlin may ban the import of cars if the West implements more sanctions. The papers say imported vehicles accounted for more than a quarter of passenger cars in the first half of 2014. For trucks, it was nearer a half and buses around an eighth. Experts feel that the move could hurt both sides.
In reality, though, that'll be a pretty unpopular decision, especially when you consider the alternatives. And I think, it's maybe not a decision they should take in too much haste.
Manufacturers like Ford, Toyota and Hyundai with factories inside Russia would not see any disruption to their Russian operations. But Ford has recently cut jobs in Russia in response to a falling market. Earlier this month, company said that it was watching developments carefully.
I think most people went in with an automotive view that the industry would be over 3 million this year. It's tracking about 2.5, 2.3, 2.4. At some point, it will regain its growth trajectory. So it's an important market for us. But I think, like most businesses, we're assessing what that means.
And according to the latest reports, aircraft and shipbuilding could be another sanctions target. Business Desk, GD News.
Well, time for the recap of the top business headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi takes participative governance to a new level, invites ideas from citizens for new institution to replace Planning Commission. Prime Minister Narendra Modi lays foundation stone of 4-laning project of a national highway section in Katihar, Haryana, emphasizing on development of Haryana, promises to eradicate corruption from the country. Markets end in green for the 6th day in a row. Sensex ends at a fresh closing high of 26,421. Nifty closes at 78.98. Regional transport offices to be overhauled soon, says the Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari. Says government to also introduce motor vehicle amendment bill in the next session of the parliament. And use services of ex-servicemen. Defence Minister Arun Jaitley urges corporate sector to utilize the services of ex-servicemen for meeting their requirement for a highly trained and disciplined workforce. Well, that's all in this edition of Business Wrap. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.
हमारे भारत में एक ऐसा चैनल निकला है जिसको हम कहते हैं डीडी भारती। हमारे संगीत की परंपरा को ये एक ऐसा चैनल